Welcome back to the deep dive. So today, we're diving into something really fascinating. We've got these sources. They blend, like the actual process of writing, with high fantasy. It gets pretty wild, blurring the lines between the author and, well, her own characters.
Yeah, it's definitely not just a straightforward story. It's like lifting the curtain on how it's made.
Right.
The characters are right there watching. We're focused on this author, Rose, who turns out to be a bibliomancer, which is key.
A bibliomancer, someone whose writing affects reality.
Exactly. And we see her life, her relationship with her girlfriend, Lou, and crucially, how her characters, like Juliet and Ivy and Damon, they actually talk back. They have opinions. They demand things. It's intense.
Okay, so our job here, our deep dive mission, is pretty ambitious. We're going to dissect this material using like 7 different perspectives. Think literary critic meets narrative designer meets, I don't know, creative strategist.
Right. We'll look at character development, plot, world building, themes, the magic system itself, how humor works, and this creative strategy angle, finding those non-obvious connections.
It's going to get into some really interesting territory. We've got characters demanding to be ravished, an 11-year-old apprentice to a senior wizard. Portal muffins.
Portal muffins, yeah, they're happy with those. Okay, so where do we start? I think it has to be that core relationship, right?
Yeah.
The author and her creations. That seems foundational.
Absolutely. Let's start right there. Using that character development lens, the absolute heart of this whole thing is the dynamic between Rose, the author, and Juliet, who's supposed to be her main character. And it's immediately presented as a conflict, a real struggle for control.
It really is. The sources say Rose is maddened because Juliet just refuses to act the way Rose planned. Specifically around this guy, Damon, who Rose had picked out as the hero, the romantic lead.
The perfect man, according to Rose's outline, anyway.
Right. But Juliet's not having it. And what's fascinating, looking at the themes here of like creator responsibility, Rose's first instinct isn't to understand why, it's to coerce. She literally threatens Juliet.
Yeah, threatens to marry her off to this awful preacher character if she doesn't get with the program, basically.
Which is just, wow. Talk about authorial power abuse. But Juliet pushes back hard. She accuses Rose directly. You're trying to force your ideas and desires onto me.
And that's huge, right? The character is claiming agency, claiming the moral high ground from the author. It's such a meta moment.
It really is. And then the plot progression immediately validates Juliet's agency. Rose is planning this, frankly, clumsy plot device.
Yeah.
A sudden heart attack for Damon to just get rid of him.
A real Deus Ex Machina move. Convenient.
Totally. But before Rose can even write it, Juliet drops this massive revelation. She confesses she's already in love.
But not with Damon.
No, not with Damon at all. She's in love with Ivy, the milkmaid character, which completely blindsides Rose. The character just rewrote the entire romantic subplot on her own terms.
So how does Rose react from a character development standpoint? This is a critical moment for her, the author.
It is. She's shocked, definitely.
Yeah.
But the sources say she accepts it pretty quickly. She even thinks to herself that, yeah, Ivy was lovely.
So there's a shift there. Her plan, her authorial control, kind of gives way to what? Her character's happiness.
I think so. It seems like the emotional truth that Juliet presents, her genuine love for Ivy, it overrides Rose's plot outline. The Bibliomancer, the reality shaper, is actually being guided by her character's inner life. It's a fascinating reversal.
And this ties back to the themes around morality, doesn't it? Rose tries to justify wanting Damon gone by bringing up some gross comments he made about sexual assault, trying to take the ethical high ground herself.
But Juliet calls her out on it immediately.
Yeah.
She points out that Rose uses vile names, too. So Juliet basically says you don't get to claim moral superiority here. It really grounds the morality in the character's lived experience, not just the author's sometimes convenient justifications.
Okay, so this need for genuine connection, for emotional truth, it leads us directly to Lou, right? Rose's girlfriend, the werewolf bard.
Absolutely. Their relationship becomes a huge driver for the plot progression. And Lou's confession scene is, well, it's a lot. It's a major character moment for her.
She reveals 2 massive things back to back.
Right. First, that she's a werewolf, which is a big deal in this world, clearly. And second, that she used to stalk Rose.
Yeah. The stalking, driven by this irresistible attraction, apparently using her tracking skills, which weren't great at first, the text mentions.
Okay, let's pause here. Analyzing Rose's character development in response to this. It's interesting. Juliet immediately labels Lou a monster and points out the stalking. Rose is appalled for like a second.
And then, almost instantly, she's defending Lou, fiercely, saying things like, I'm not running away, and I'm almost positive that I love her. It's incredibly fast.
It is. You could argue maybe it's Rose embracing agency in her own life,
Yeah.
choosing this connection. But
But from a critical standpoint, does it feel maybe too fast? Like the acceptance of a confessed stalker being smoothed over by the demands of the romantic plot? That rapid jump is pretty typical of the romance genre, even if the real-world take would be more complex.
I think that's a fair critique. The narrative definitely seems to prioritize the emotional truth of their connection now over the problematic nature of how it started. And this acceptance immediately fuels the plot progression. The tension dissolves, and Lou agrees to go with Rose on this week-long trip to Wildwood to find a publisher.
Which kicks off the main journey of this section of the story.
Exactly. And that journey, that interaction between worlds, hinges on this core magic and fantasy element reveal. The creative act is physical reality here.
Right. Ivy, the milkmaid character, she confirms it explicitly. She tells Rose, yes, ma'am, you're the authoress. We can always see you. They see everything.
Everything. They saw her hugging Lou in the forest. They watched them taking a bath together. It's intense.
This is a huge meta-narrative twist. It totally reframes the world building. The author isn't some detached god pulling strings from afar.
Not at all. She's under constant surveillance by her own creations. She's accountable to them in a weird way. And this awareness immediately gets physical stakes with the introduction of the erased biscuits.
Ah, yes, the biscuits. Introduced by Lily, who works at Mad Maggie's magical bakery.
And these aren't just snacks. They're described as a non-reversible magical item. Eating one would effectively erase the characters from Rose's head, silence the voices, stop the interference, stop the observations.
So it presents an immediate existential choice for Rose and Lou. Do they choose a quiet, normal life, free from this constant character interaction, or embrace the chaos and power of Rose's abilities?
It's the first major conflict point beyond the romantic setup, and it leads into the formal naming of Rose's power. Lily's the one who first calls her a bibliomancer.
An author whose writing manifests physically, magically.
Right. And this gets confirmed later by Grandmaster Brightspark, who everyone calls Sparky.
And the ultimate proof of this power, the big magic reveal, comes when Sparky basically dares Rose. He tells her to ask Juliet to come off the page.
And she does. Juliet physically manifests in the real world, outside the book. That confirms it beyond doubt. Rose isn't just writing stories, she's creating tangible reality, or at least beings who can cross into it.
Okay, and to make all this travel and interaction possible, the world building gives us a key mechanic, the portal system.
Yeah, the muffins. We get portal muffins for travel between worlds, specifically between Emain Ablotch, the main magical realm where Wildwood is.
And Tranquility, Rose's non-magical hometown.
And then there's the darkly amusing Leave This Muffin, which is apparently for dealing with portal demons. It establishes this slightly quirky but functional magical transport network, setting the stage for Rose's journey and her needed apprenticeship with Sparky.
Okay, moving into segment 2. Rose and Lou arrive in Wildwood, and the world building really expands here. This place is clearly the magical center, right? Emain Ablotch's hub.
Definitely. It's a stark contrast to Sleepy Tranquility. We get key locations mapped out. Sparky's bookshop, enigmatic parchments, and Lily's place of work, Mad Maggie's magical bakery. It immediately establishes this sense of a functioning magical town with specialized businesses.
And the living situation is interesting, too. They move into Sparky's tower, which is huge, magical.
But Lou specifically uses magic inside the tower to recreate Rose's cozy old cottage.
Why? When they could have a palace?
Exactly. Lou asks that. But Rose wants the familiar. I think this touches on a theme we see recurring. The desire for emotional comfort and security even amidst overwhelming magic. Spectacle isn't always the goal.
The details of the tower's magic are great, though. The adaptive spaces, the kitchen that just makes food instantly.
And the privy. The magical toilet that instantly vanishes everything, including any odors.
It's brilliant. That juxtaposition of high magic and, basic plumbing needs. From a creative strategist view, it's about removing friction from daily life, even a magical one. It makes the fantasy more lived in.
Totally lived in. And the magical commerce isn't just generic potion shops. Mad Maggie's, through Lily, deals in very specific magical goods. We learn about ingredients she gathers.
Like wandering time and hollow acorn shells.
Which are used for eyeball candies. Those give you 6 hours of seeing through invisibility or cloaking spells. That's super specific utility.
And the lucent lemon peel for the funny-looking muffins that turn your head into an animal or a ghost temporarily.
Right. These aren't just vague spells, they're consumable products with defined effects and durations. It's a proper magical market.
But Sparky's shop, Enigmatic Parchments, takes this commercial specificity to another level with the Artec. This is where the magic and fantasy elements meet the creative strategist lens head-on.
It really is. These aren't just magic items, they're tools designed to solve specific problems for writers. They target authorial pain points within different genres.
Okay, give us some examples.
Well, there's the author light, is for horror or gothic writers. You write a description like black as a crypt, and the actual lighting in your room changes to match. It's about creating atmospheric immersion for the writer.
Okay, cool. What else?
For sci-fi writers, they have things like universe projector maps and an olfactory machine, a small generator. But crucially, the text notes, you can turn it off.
Why is that detail important?
Because it suggests user feedback. Like, maybe the first version was overwhelming, stuck generating the smell of, I don't know, spaceship fuel for hours. Being able to turn it off shows product iteration based on practical use. That's smart design.
And then there's the big one, the romance writer tech, the emotion machine.
Yeah, with a sliding scale to let the author feel the character's emotions, grief, joy, and specifically lust.
And this is where the strategy gets really interesting, because buying the lust machine requires signing a waiver.
The waiver. That's the key strategic detail. It's risk assessment built into the product offering.
Why the waiver? What's the risk?
The risk is that feeling a character's emotions that intensely, especially something powerful like lust, could fundamentally change the author's own creative direction. You might start feeling those desires so strongly that you accidentally shift your epic fantasy novel into, well, something else entirely.
You might change genre unintentionally because the machine influenced you too much.
Exactly. The waiver acknowledges that the risk of the author losing control of their own story because of the tool they're using. It's an ethical and professional safeguard.
This idea of ethical use of power, it transitions us perfectly into the themes explored through Rose's actions, particularly the Salome incident back in Tranquility. This felt like a major test for her as a bibliomancer.
Absolutely high stakes. Rose discovers the town preacher and the head deacon have been sexually exploiting Salome, and her reaction is immediate, powerful use of her magic.
She turns them into a toad and a weasel, which feels pretty decisive.
It is, but the crucial part thematically is what she does next. She doesn't just leave them like that or force a magical confession.
Right. She gives them a choice. Confess their crimes publicly and face prison, or refuse and stay as animals.
And she explicitly states why she does this. She says she didn't want to force a confession because that would be stealing her agency, even the agency of these villains.
That's a really important distinction. She uses her power to intervene, to stop the harm. But she respects the principle of choice, of agency, even for people she despises. This seems like a core part of her developing ethical code as a bibliomancer.
And it's clearly the right move in this world's context.
Yeah.
Because Sparky later praises her for exactly that restraint.
Yeah.
It sets a standard for responsible power use.
Speaking of Sparky, we get a really important piece of backstory about him related to the magic system and its dangers in Emain Ablach.
Yeah, Lily reveals this. Sparky Grandmaster Brightspark was actually cursed centuries ago by Titania, Queen of the Fae.
Cursed how?
To be forever hungry, just perpetually starving.
Why? What did he do?
About 300 years ago, he cast a powerful, apparently illegal bibliomancy spell. Titania demanded he reverse it, he refused, and bam, eternal hunger curse.
Okay, that's not just a quirky character trait then. It establishes serious consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It shows that even the most powerful wizards in this world face real, lasting, non-negotiable penalties for breaking magical laws or defying figures like Titania. It adds weight and danger to the whole system, framing why Rose's apprenticeship and learning the rules is so critical.
All right, let's shift gears now from magical rules and commerce to more direct action and political maneuvering. Segment 3 really dives into plot progression through two quite complex, intertwining story arcs. First, there's the kidnapping plot in Tranquility.
Right, the Pinewood kidnapping.
Yeah.
This involves Elena, who's the daughter of Burgomaster Valen, the town leader.
And the way this unfolds is a great example of using unexpected resources, kind of a strategic approach to investigation.
Totally. The plot isn't uncovered by a town guard or detective. It's overheard by Daisy, the library ghost.
A ghost informant, okay.
And Daisy provides the key clue, a smell, specifically horse manure.
Horse manure, right.
Yeah.
Not your typical clue.
No. But Rose connects this with Dogberry, the gate guard's theory. Dogberry mentioned farmers were spreading manure on the fields nearby, which explains why there'd suddenly be a lot of that smell on the road near where Alina might have been taken. It's connecting disparate pieces of information.
And this allows Rose to figure out where the kidnappers likely are, and the reveal of who they are ties things together nicely for the plot progression.
Yeah, the kidnappers included the owner of the Pinewood Academy, and crucially, they were also the same people who had recently vandalized the new theater Rose was trying to build. It connects the local crime back to resistance against Rose's community projects.
And how does Rose resolve this? We see another interesting theme play out here, right?
Yes, definitely. When the culprits are caught specifically, the carpenters who did the actual vandalism Rose doesn't just push for maximum punishment.
What does she do?
She uses her influence, works with the burgomaster to get them jobs working on reconstructing the theater they damaged. It's restorative justice, basically, integrating them back into the community through work rather than just locking them up. It echoes her approach with the preacher and deacon intervention, but with an eye towards rehabilitation or constructive consequence rather than pure retribution.
Okay, that's the local intrigue. But then we have the second major arc, the coup, led by Princess Maria. This is pure political strategy and major character development.
Oh, absolutely. Maria's transformation is incredible. She starts as this passive figure, literally designated as a sacrificial virgin for a dragon.
And ends up, well, not passive.
Not at all. She becomes this ruthless, effective strategist
Yeah.
who violently overthrows her own father to seize power. It's a massive assertion of agency.
And a key part of her strategy is narrative control, using that creative strategy lens. She takes something meant to shame her and turns it into power.
Exactly. The dragon initially calls her a slut after realizing she wasn't a virgin, which was meant to be deeply humiliating. But Maria hires her former lover, Emil M. Reed, who's basically a PR genius.
And they create the slutty princess brand.
They do. It's not just a defiant nickname, it's a calculated political campaign. The sources describe them creating these little statuettes of Maria, complete with personalized voice recordings and seductive actions.
Wow. So they're literally manufacturing propaganda merchandise.
Precisely. And it goes viral. It generates huge popular support, transforms her image from victim to defiant icon, and becomes a powerful tool for consolidating her political base. Taking a negative label and owning it, redefining it as freedom and power, that's classic high-level branding and propaganda.
Her success isn't just branding, though. The plot progression shows she makes very smart, pragmatic alliances.
Crucial alliances. First, there's Ronan. He's described as a paladin of Loki, which is interesting in itself. He provides the essential covert skills, combat, stealth, and magical support like illusion and hearing spells. He's the perfect operative for a coup.
And then the big one, the dragon.
Draco. Getting him on side is the absolute masterstroke. Maria achieves this by revealing her father's treachery.
What was the treachery?
The king knew Maria wasn't a virgin when he sent her as a sacrifice. He was actually hoping she would anger the dragon and cause him to destroy his own eggs. It was a betrayal of both Maria and the dragon.
Ah, okay. So by exposing that, Maria positions herself as the more trustworthy party.
Exactly. She secures Draco's help and, critically, gets him to promise not to harm the dwarves during the upcoming conflict.
And why is that promise important?
Because it's the key to unlocking the final, most powerful military allies, the dwarves. Thane Grimmer, their leader, agrees to join Maria's cause after she secures the dragon's promise regarding their safety. The sources also mention Grimmer respects her sheer nerve in facing down the dragon.
So she gets this huge dwarven army, clad in mithril armor. It's a combination of sharp political maneuvering, exposing truth, strategic promises, and personal courage. Her character arc is all about moving from pawn to player.
Absolutely. Intellect, branding, alliance building. It's a full strategic takeover.
Just before we move on, we should quickly touch on Lou's character development during this period, too. Rose has to start her apprenticeship with Sparky, which means they're separated for a bit.
Right. And Lou doesn't just sit around waiting. She immediately goes out and gets a job as a bard at a tavern in Wildwood, the Jack in the Green.
It shows her adaptability, right? Her professional resilience.
Yeah, and her commitment. She finds a way to support herself and stay close to Rose, integrating into this new magical environment pretty seamlessly. It reinforces her as a capable partner, not just someone dependent on Rose.
Okay, so now let's really lean into that creative strategist perspective. We've touched on it throughout, but let's try to synthesize it, looking for those non-obvious connections and innovative applications across all these different threads. What are the underlying business models or strategic principles at play in this magical world?
We definitely hit on the art tech from Sparky's shop as prime product development. It's not just selling magic, it's identifying specific creator problems, like writing convincing emotions or atmosphere, and
Yeah.
offering targeted magical solutions.
And that waiver for the lust machine is such a key detail for risk management. They recognized a potential negative outcome, the user losing control of their creative work, and built in a mechanism to address it legally and ethically. It's sophisticated product strategy.
What about how Rose deals with her characters? You mentioned interviews earlier.
Yeah.
How does that fit the strategist lens? I think it maps perfectly onto talent recruitment and management. Rose, the author or bibliomancer, isn't just dictating actions. She's treating characters like Sophia, Scarlet, Ryder, Cormac almost like specialized consultants or actors.
How so?
She holds interviews with them. She tries to understand their core motivations, their skills, their ethical lines before she casts them in a story or plotline.
So it's like doing deep market research on your target audience or vetting potential hires for a complex project.
Exactly, and she seems to prioritize their internal logic and agency. Like the example given is Scarlett insisting that any nudity in her scenes must be non-gratuitous, serving the story. Rose respects that boundary.
The strategic takeaway there seems to be you get better results, a more coherent product or story, if you respect the inherent nature and agency of your key players. Whether they're fictional characters or actual team members, don't force them into roles that don't fit.
Precisely. Then there's the spin aspect, epitomized by the Slutty Princess campaign.
Yeah.
That's pure crisis management and rebranding.
Taking a moment of intense public shaming, being labeled a slut by a dragon, no less, and flipping it entirely.
M. Reed, the strategist, didn't try to deny the label or hide from it. He leaned into it, redefined it as a symbol of defiance, freedom, strength. They weaponized the controversy itself to gain massive attention and shape public opinion.
The strategic lesson is clear. In a crisis, sometimes the boldest move is to seize the narrative, own the negative label, and redefine it on your own terms. It's aggressive reputation management.
Absolutely. And finally, let's look at non-traditional alliances and currencies. We saw this with Maria getting the dwarves and the dragon, but Rose does this on a smaller scale too in her community projects.
Right. She doesn't just use money or official channels. She uses creative bribes or exchanges.
Very specific ones mentioned in the sources, like offering pizza to the gnomes who are helping build things. It's not gold. It's a practical, immediate reward that appeals directly to them.
Or offering co-authorship to another character, Henry, appealing to his creative ego.
Yeah, or leveraging personal relationships, like using Lily's connection to Mad Maggie to get access to those crucial portal muffins.
So the strategy here is recognizing that influence doesn't just come from money. Favors, food, friendship, shared creative goals. These are all valuable currencies in negotiation.
Exactly. You need to understand what truly motivates the other party. And it might not be financial. It's about finding the right currency for each specific interaction.
So the overall picture from a creative strategist view is this magical world, despite the fantasy, operates on some pretty sound, almost business-like principles. Define your product, manage risk, recruit talent wisely, control the narrative, and understand the value of different kinds of exchange.
And if you master those, as Rose and Maria seem to be doing in their different ways, you can literally reshape reality or, at least overthrow a kingdom.
Okay, for our final segment, let's talk about humor. Because threaded through all this high-stakes stuff, the magic, the politics, the existential author crises, there's a surprising amount of comedy. The sources consistently maintain this lighter, often funny tone. How is humor actually used in this story?
That's a great question because the humor isn't just decoration. It feels functional. I think the most obvious type is self-awareness and meta-humor. The narrative is constantly winking at the audience, making jokes about the writing process itself.
Like Rose's whole struggle with outlining versus pantsing.
Exactly. When Sparky asks if she's a pantser, someone who writes by the seat of their pants, Rose is completely confused. She says, "What's a pantser? I always wear skirts. You know that."
It takes the potentially intimidating jargon of writing and just makes it silly, relatable. It undercuts the mystique of the Ochre God.
Right. And the characters get in on the meta jokes too. There's that moment where Sebastian, one of Rose's characters, makes this absolutely ridiculous request.
Oh, yeah. Tell us that one.
He asks Rose, his author, to please write in a young lady for me to ravish. And then gives this absurdly specific description. Blonde with wavy hair, green emerald eyes, and really big breasts and a thin waist.
It's such a perfect send-up of lazy writing tropes and character wish fulfillment. It lets the story laugh at itself, which is important, especially right before it delves into the much darker situation with Salome. The timing there feels intentional.
Definitely intentional contrast.
Yeah.
We also see existential humor playing with the character's awareness of being fictional. Paula Becker, another character Rose created, apparently gets freaked out about being fictional.
Which is understandable, I
But
guess.
then Lou, the werewolf, offers this strangely comforting perspective. She
Yeah.
basically says, look, non-fictional people have all these confusing ideas about where they came from, evolution, creationism, aliens. We know where we came from. Rose wrote us.
Huh. So being fictional is presented as almost more secure, less existential angst.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's this funny inversion where having a clear author provides a certainty that real life lacks. It's a quirky, humorous take on existence.
Then there's the more straightforward situational and physical comedy, the kind that just makes the world feel more grounded and memorable.
My personal favorite has to be Mastat Mindguard, the dwarf bard.
Oh, the one whose life goal
Was just to sit, strum his instrument poorly, drink free ale, and eat free food. After decades of boring guard duty, that was his retirement plan. It completely deflates the epic bard trope into something incredibly mundane and relatable.
It makes him stick in your mind, though. Same with the magical toilet in Sparky's tower.
Yes, the privy that instantly eliminates everything, odors included. It's that constant, funny collision of high magic and very basic, everyday human functions. He keeps the world from feeling too sterile or lofty.
We also get classic comedic routines, like with the gate guards, Dogberry, and Verges. Their dialogue is almost Shakespearean in its focus on duty above all else.
Right. That whole exchange about not committing a deletion of duty, even if one of them desperately needs to pee. It's low-stakes, character-based humor that makes these minor figures memorable and humanizes the world's bureaucracy. You remember the guard who needs to pee.
And there's McCracken's charm, using Rose's voice to bypass security. Little moments of mischief.
Exactly. Mischief is a good word.
Yeah.
And humor is also used for social commentary and tension relief, especially the more dramatic plot lines.
Like with Draco, the dragon, and Maria.
Absolutely. Draco's snark is brilliant, calling Maria the astonishing slutty princess, even after he's agreed to help her, or telling her, now get out of here, it's finally quiet and I want a nap, and oh, slutty princess, well done.
It's so blunt and unexpected from a powerful dragon.
It totally undercuts the self-seriousness of the political plot. It makes Maria, the intense strategist, feel more approachable, and it makes Draco weirdly likable despite being, a giant dragon involved in a coup.
Humor also diffuses relationship tension, like that moment between Rose and Lou.
Yeah, when they both confess at the exact same time that they were jealous about the other talking to Paula Becker. The sheer coincidence of the simultaneous confession is funny, and it resolves what could have been a serious relationship conflict in this really light, heartwarming way. No big drama, just mutual, slightly silly jealousy acknowledged.
Okay, so bringing it all together, what's the overall theme and purpose of using so much humor throughout these sources?
I think it serves several key functions. One, it constantly breaks the fourth wall, reminding everyone, characters and audience, that this is a construct, a story, that meta-awareness is central.
Two, it humanizes the powerful. The
Yes.
Sparky being cursed with eternal hunger and Rose teasing him about donuts makes this arch-wizard feel flawed and relatable, not just some distant magical authority.
Three, it genuinely enhances memory. Those funny details, the need to pee, the terrible dwarf bard, the specific magical products they make, the vast amount of world-building information, much more digestible and memorable. They stick with you.
And finally,
Finally, and maybe most importantly, the humor acts as a crucial buffer and tone manager. It allows the narrative to explore really dark themes. We've seen sexual assault, political corruption, betrayal, the ethics of creation, without becoming relentlessly grim. That light touch, that ability to pivot between seriousness and humor, is what keeps the fantasy tone engaging and prevents the weight of the themes from overwhelming the reader or listener. It introduces dark ideas, often cushioned by humor, before resolving them seriously.
so looking back at everything, what really stands out is just how tangible the power of narrative is in this world. It's not just metaphor. Rose's bibliomancy literally brings characters to life. Maria's slutty princess brand shapes political reality through pure narrative strategy. Storytelling is power here.
It absolutely is. And that forces us to confront that question of responsibility. If you're Rose, a bibliomancer, and you have the power to, say, take a villain, erase their past, and give them a happy new life somewhere else, should you? What is the ultimate moral obligation of a creator with that kind of power? Where's the line between justice and playing God?
That's a heavy question. And for us, the audience, the takeaway might be about applying that same kind of strategic thinking. How can we look beyond the obvious surface level in our own lives or work? How can we spot those non-traditional alliances, those niche products like the R-Tech, or understand the power of narrative and branding like M. Reed did?
It's about seeing the underlying structures and levers, even in a magical world, and thinking about how they might apply elsewhere. Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. Given everything we've discussed, Rose's characters can watch her constantly. They can argue with her, influence her decisions, make jokes that affect her. Who actually holds the reins in this story? Is it Rose, the author, the bibliomancer? Or is it in some strange way the world and the characters she thought she created who are now shaping her reality?
Who really has the agency, the creator or the creation? Something to think about indeed.